Have you ever noticed how the world seems noisier than ever, and yet we can barely hear what really matters? We live in an age where the noise never stops. Notifications vibrate in our pockets, screens flash with promises of endless entertainment, and paradoxically, the world seems emptier with every swipe. It's as if we're all in a grand modern theater watching a play without a script, isolated in invisible booths, applauding acts we don't even understand. The paradox of our times is cruel. The more digitally connected we are, the lonelier we feel. Bauman called this liquid love, temporary, mutable, disposable relationships. And it's not just about love. Our attention, our time, and our very lives have become liquid, slipping through videos, memes, and notifications, always searching for something to fill a void we can't name. Distraction initially appears as a relief, a pause to escape discomfort. But little by little, it transforms into a silent prison. The mind, unable to bear its own silence, cries out for stimulation, even fleeting ones. Gabor Maté explains that we are biologically programmed to seek small rewards. Each like, each click, each new notification triggers dopamine and reinforces patterns that distance us from ourselves. Our attention is fragmented, and the cost is deeper than we imagine. It's not just an individual issue. When billions of people enter this cycle, collective symptoms emerge: anxiety, insomnia, depression, feelings of inadequacy. We are facing a silent outbreak, an epidemic of inattention, of lack of presence. Nietzsche, reflecting on nihilism, already warned us. When we avoid contemplation and conscious suffering, we open space for emptiness to dominate. And that's exactly what distraction does. It becomes a shield against existence itself. Imagine a room full of people, each immersed in their own screen. No one sees each other, no one hears, no one truly feels. Physical proximity doesn't generate emotional intimacy. Conversations become superficial. Encounters become performative. The human experience, that which defines us, is diluted into fragments of attention. A mass outbreak, not of public panic, but of collective inattention, where everyone is both spectator and victim of a play no one wrote. Silence, which should be a space for self-discovery, is now feared. Kierkegaard reminded us that solitude is not a punishment, but an opportunity to confront our own existence. In the age of distraction, however, silence is filled with incessant images, sounds, and texts. Every empty space is quickly occupied. Silence, the only place where we can hear our own voice, has become an almost forbidden luxury. And it is precisely at this point that distraction ceases to be just a habit and becomes an invisible illness. Losing attention means losing a part of ourselves. Every moment lived distractedly is a part of the human experience that fades away. We become navigators in an ocean of stimuli, always searching, never finding, like castaways in our own consciousness. As we scroll through endless feeds, the mind seeks quick rewards, but the soul yearns for what isn't immediate: presence, reflection, intimacy with oneself. What seemed like simple entertainment reveals itself to be a silent trap. And understanding this is the first step to realizing the true cost of this modern distraction. The price of a humanity that distances itself from itself, even while always connected. And by recognizing this silent fissure within ourselves, we begin to understand how the cycle of distraction is not only personal, but profoundly social, shaping our relationships, our work, and our very way of being. It is at this point that what seemed like mere distraction reveals itself as a true paradox of modern life, a conundrum that only reveals itself when we stop to face the impact of lost attention. If this video is making you pause and reflect, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. This helps YouTube deliver this video to more people who are also searching for meaning amid the noise. We live connected, yet we are alone. The more we seek to connect with one another through screens, the more distant we become from ourselves and those around us. It's the paradox of modern distraction. The more we engage our attention with external stimuli, the more we isolate ourselves emotionally. Zygmunt Bauman described in his writings what he called liquid love. Relationships that slip through our fingers, lacking depth and commitment. In the digital world, it's no different. Likes and comments replace meaningful dialogue. Instant messages replace real presence. Followers replace friends. Every superficial gesture convinces us we're connected, when in reality, we're distancing ourselves from something essential. Human attention, as Gabor Maté explained, was not designed to be constantly fragmented. Our brain seeks patterns, depth, meaning. But in the modern environment, we are bombarded with short, quick, infinite stimuli. Dopamine becomes the currency of attention. Every click, every video, every notification releases a small chemical reward, keeping us trapped in a cycle that distances us from our own consciousness. It's almost as if we're addicted not to a substance, but to moments of distraction, short bursts of escape that ultimately leave us feeling emptier. And this paradox manifests itself in everyday life in ways we often ignore. Work meetings where no one really listens, dinners where everyone's eyes are glued to their screens, conversations interrupted by notifications. The modern world offers us everything: information, entertainment, connection, and yet it robs us of something fundamental: the ability to be fully present, to feel the depth of life itself. Nietzsche said that when we avoid facing our suffering and emptiness, we end up distracting ourselves with anything that keeps us occupied. Distraction then becomes an escape from what would make us whole: reflection, introspection, and the encounter with ourselves. It's paradoxical. The more we try to escape the discomfort of emptiness, the more it grows within us, silent and persistent. And it's not just wasted time. Every distracted moment alters our perception, our memory, our experience of the world. Small lapses of attention accumulate, creating a life lived in fragments. The mind becomes accustomed to never settling down, never diving deeply. And when we try to think or feel intensely, an almost physical restlessness arises, as if the mind were complaining about having been neglected for so long. Which leads us to reflect on the cruelest irony. Technology, which was created to connect us and expand our experience, becomes an instrument of isolation. It offers us infinite doors to enter parallel worlds, while the most important door, the one that leads us to ourselves, remains closed. And deep down, it is precisely this conflict that defines the human experience today. We long to be connected, but we cannot bear the depth that true connection demands. And as we realize this, we begin to understand how distraction shapes not only our emotions, but also our values, our relationships, and our perception of what's important. Every moment we allow our attention to slip away from ourselves and those around us is a moment we distance ourselves from life itself. And it is in this space of absence and displacement that the next layer of the problem reveals itself: how this fragmented distraction affects our mind, our behavior, and ultimately our emotional health. Human attention wasn't meant to be scattered across millions of fragments. For millennia, our brains have sought patterns, meaning, and depth. Today, however, they are constantly summoned to dart from one stimulus to another, like an animal chasing shadows. Every notification, every video, every electronic alert tears us from the present and delivers us to an illusion of productivity or momentary pleasure. But the truth is quieter and more disturbing. Every lost fragment of attention is a part of us disappearing without us realizing it. Gabor Maté describes how this cycle of stimulus and reward affects dopamine, creating patterns of behavioral addiction. We're not just distracted, we're conditioned. Every click and endlessly repeated scroll keeps our brain constantly alert, but never satisfied. And the consequences aren't just superficial. Anxiety, stress, difficulty concentrating, and feelings of emptiness begin to infiltrate daily life. The mind learns to jump from thought to thought, but forgets how to dive into the depths of a single feeling or idea. This fragmentation doesn't just affect reasoning or productivity, it alters the experience of being. Memories become vague, emotions become superficial, and meaningful moments are lost amid the incessant flow of stimuli. We are, in a sense, collectors of images and sounds, but incapable of collecting full experiences. The digital world gives us everything and takes away the essential: presence, attention, the feeling of being truly alive. The paradox deepens. We seek in screens a way to distract ourselves from suffering, loneliness, and the feeling of existential emptiness. But distraction itself becomes the source of these symptoms. Nietzsche, reflecting on nihilism, suggested that avoiding confrontation with one's own existence does not eliminate emptiness. It merely displaces it, allowing it to grow silently. Each momentary escape distances us from understanding ourselves, making us hostages of an overstimulated mind, yet disconnected from its own meaning. And there's something even deeper. When attention is fragmented, empathy is also fragmented. We can't truly listen to others nor hear ourselves fully. Conversations become superficial, encounters become performative, experiences become fleeting and disposable. This mental fragmentation creates a ripple effect. fragile relationships, superficial bonds, and a growing sense of alienation. What seemed like mere distraction becomes a kind of silent outbreak, affecting not only the individual but the entire community. It's at this point that we begin to realize the gravity of the phenomenon. It's not just about wasted time or reduced productivity, it's about how the modern mind is shaped for distraction, for escaping the present, for an inability to focus on what truly matters. And when we understand this, we can finally begin to see the invisible cost of distraction. A price paid in silence, in fragments of life that dissolve before they're even fully lived. And as we peer into this fragmented mind, we realize how the emptiness we try to avoid surrounds us everywhere. On social media, in apps, in the glowing screens that accompany us at every moment. And it is at this point that an inevitable question arises. If distraction is an escape, how can we confront the emptiness it conceals, and what does it reveal to us about the fragility of modern life? What drives us to seek distraction incessantly is often fear of facing our own emptiness. Silence, introspection, and contemplation of our own existence can be frightening. Camus called this the absurd, the tension between our need for meaning and the world's indifference. And in an attempt to escape this confrontation, we plunge into distractions that rob us of our own awareness. Nietzsche, even more forcefully, suggested that avoiding suffering doesn't free us from it. It only prevents us from growing, from becoming stronger, more aware. Suffering, doubt, and loneliness are fundamental elements in understanding who we truly are. But the modern world offers us shortcuts. Instant entertainment, superficial information, fluid connections. All so we never have to face the abyss that resides within us. This fear manifests itself subtly. Feelings of inadequacy, anxiety, and constant restlessness. The mind seeks stimuli to distract itself from what is essential to face. And the more we run away, the more the emptiness grows silently, almost imperceptibly, eroding our life experience. The paradox is cruel. We seek comfort and entertainment, but find only alienation and disconnection. Philosophy teaches us that emptiness is not the enemy. Kierkegaard, Camus, Nietzsche, they all point out that facing one's own existence is an act of courage. Distraction, then, is an escape. It's the price we pay for not looking ourselves in the eye. In the contemporary world, this escape is organized collectively. While we lose ourselves in endless feeds, the entire society shares this silent void. It's a mass outbreak of lost attention, an epidemic of distraction that spreads without us noticing. And it is in this context that we realize, the void we fear facing is not a space devoid of meaning, but a space of potential. It is there that the possibility of reflection, self-knowledge, and transformation resides. But to achieve this, we must resist the constant temptation of distraction. It takes courage to remain present, to look within, even when it hurts, even when we feel naked before our own uncertainties. By understanding this, we realize that what we call distraction is not just a habit, but an unconscious defense against the depth of life. It's our mind's way of trying to protect itself from what it finds unbearable, the encounter with itself. And by recognizing this mechanism, we begin to understand the true cost of modern distraction. Not just wasted time, but the silent erosion of the very experience of being. This realization naturally leads to questioning the practical consequences of living this way, the impact on relationships, work, and the ability to feel and think deeply. And it is precisely at this point that the modern world, with its incessant demands and endless stimuli, reveals the cost of its deceptive promise. The distraction that keeps us busy also keeps us away from the life we could truly live. When distraction ceases to be merely individual and becomes collective, the impact spreads beyond the mind. It shapes our relationships, our communities, and even the way we perceive the world. The connection that seemed assured by screens reveals itself to be fragile and superficial. Conversations become performative, meetings become quick exchanges of information, and gestures of affection are lost in the speed of feeds. Fragmented attention is reflected in empathy. If we can't listen to ourselves, how can we truly listen to others? The toll this takes is visible in every aspect of modern life. Polarization, intolerance, emotional superficiality, symptoms of a society that has learned to distract itself to avoid facing its own emptiness. Every notification that pulls us from the present is also an opportunity for collective alienation. We become spectators of our own lives, while the attention we should be devoting to real people and experiences dissolves into fragments of digital stimuli. This distraction also affects our emotional health. Anxiety and depression are manifestations of a brain that is never allowed to rest, of a mind constantly manipulated by designs that exploit our cognitive weaknesses. Excessive stimulation creates a permanent state of alert, a silent tension that slowly erodes the ability to feel, reflect, and relate. Viktor Frankl said that lack of meaning is one of the greatest human sufferings. In the modern world, this lack of meaning often manifests itself silently. Distraction as an escape, alienation as a side effect. And there's a broader social cost. A fragmented community is a weakened one. Mass distraction creates a shared experience of superficiality. Events, debates, and even collective movements lose depth because the attention needed for genuine engagement is always divided. It's as if an invisible epidemic is sweeping through every screen, every feed, every notification, shaping behaviors and eroding bonds. The mass outbreak we are experiencing doesn't resemble visible catastrophes. It is silent yet devastating. It manifests itself in collective loneliness, difficulty concentrating, and a lack of genuine dialogue. We are simultaneously more connected and more isolated than any previous generation. Technology promised us closeness but delivered distance. What seemed like freedom, the ability to be everywhere at once, turns into a prison of fragmented attention and silent emptiness. And by recognizing this dynamic, we begin to understand how distraction is not just an individual choice, but a social condition. Every gesture of conscious presence, every moment of mindfulness, becomes an act of resistance against this silent epidemic. This is where individual reflection meets the need for collective consciousness. To survive emotionally and socially, we must recognize the cost of distraction and learn to regain control of our own attention. And it is precisely this understanding that leads us to the most intimate question. If distraction fragments our relationships and our minds, how can we rediscover lost depth? How can we live fully, consciously, and connectedly, without succumbing to the silent cycle that envelopes us? The answer is not simple, but it begins with the courage to face the emptiness we try to avoid, and to rebuild, step by step, the attention and presence that are essential for a meaningful life. If we look back at all the moments we spend distracted, we might realize something disturbing. It's not just time that's wasted, but the very experience of living. Every swipe, every notification responded to immediately, is a small escape from what really matters. From silence, from reflection, from deep connection with ourselves and others. Modern distraction presents itself as entertainment, but it acts as anesthesia. The paradox of the digital age is cruel. The more connected, the more disconnected. The busier, the emptier. The more distracted, the more alone. And yet, in this very paradox, there is an opportunity. For awareness of the problem is, in itself, a first step toward liberation. Recognizing that we are fragmented, that our relationships and attention have been affected, is the first act of courage to regain control of our own lives. Nietzsche, Kierkegaard, and Camus remind us that emptiness and discomfort are not enemies, but paths to authenticity. Rediscovering meaning requires courage. The courage to remain present, to look within, to confront what is difficult to face. Recovered attention is not just an individual act. It is an act of resistance against a society that conditions us to fragment our lives, our emotions, and our consciousness. And so, even amidst the silent surge of distraction, there is still the possibility of rediscovering wholeness. A moment of attention, a deep conversation, an instant of silence. Small gestures that bring us back to the present, that connect us with ourselves and with others. It is in this space that the life we want resides, not the superficial life offered by screens, but a life lived with intensity, presence, and meaning. If this video made you pause, maybe it's because part of you needed to hear it. If you want to continue exploring the paradoxes that make us human, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. This helps YouTube deliver this reflection to more people who are also searching for meaning amidst the noise. Perhaps, in the silence we lack, we can finally find ourselves. And when we can remain present even for a moment, we will realize that life, though fragmented and chaotic, still offers depth, if we are willing to look, listen, and feel.